Let's talk about the LA Kings for a moment here. We know how the Kings really just came out of nowhere last year and made it to the playoffs, pushed Edmonton to the brink in a really entertaining 7-game series, and here they are this year with a brand new addition in Kevin Fiala. They are looking great right now, but Fiala isn't the guy I wanted to talk about today. Let's take a look at surprisingly a guy who I feel a little indifferent about. The Kings acquired him from my New York Rangers during the 2021 deadline. Let's take a look at Brendan Lemieux. For those who may have not heard of this guy before, he is the son of Claude Lemieux, a 4-time Stanley Cup champion. Like his dad, Brendan is known for being a massive agitator. In fact, if you're an OG to this channel, one of the first videos I ever made was a comparison between Sean Avery, a renowned agitator, and Brendan Lemieux. Lemieux has done all sorts of things from delayed hits to biting people, which is why he's gotten such a dirty reputation in this league. Unlike Avery though, Lemieux is willing to fight almost anyone, which is one thing I missed in the Rangers team until Ryan Reeves came. Lemieux has the build of a power forward but plays like a grinder. He's really tough, he's physical, and he loves to lay big hits and drive opponents crazy, while playing on the edge of clean and at some points dirty. He will do almost anything to get under people's skin, and whether you like it or not, every team in this league can use a guy like Brendan Lemieux. He's the lunch bully who sticks up for you. Lemieux is 6'1" and 209 pounds, which makes him a pretty buff guy, but he has not been able to match the offensive prowess of his father. We take a look at the stats and we see how Claude Lemieux has 41 goals in the 91-92 season. Brendan, on the other hand, has 31 goals in his entire NHL career as of right now, so you can clearly see how Claude has the upper edge here, so that kind of just ties into today's video. We know how Lemieux is pretty much really feisty, and we know that he's not the greatest goal scorer on the team, so does he really become worthy of staying in the lineup if he takes so many penalties and can't score much? Let's take a look at his stat line for just a sec here because it's always interesting to see what we have. Now, please keep in mind that I compiled these stats nearly a week ago, so they may change, but not by much. I wasn't sure if this video would be made soon, but here we are, so just be aware that these stats may or may not be 100% accurate, but they are very much close to being accurate. So if you're an LA Kings fan, just let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Brendan Lemieux and if these stats make sense to you guys. Either way, Brendan Lemieux, again, wasn't as prolific as his dad was, but believe it or not, he's actually not a liability when it comes to scoring. He had 1.49 points per 60 minutes at even strength last year, which, believe it or not, is higher than Adrian Kempe and Alex Iafallo, players who are considered to be top 6 potential. Players who are playing with better guys like Anze Kopitar and Philip Deneau and Kevin Fiala. It seems like Lemieux has somewhat of an upside despite being a bottom 6 player. To prove it, take a look at his Corsi rating too. He has a plus 349% Corsi rating, and for those who have never heard of it or just don't know how it works, it'll tell you how many more shot attempts a team could have had when a specific player was on the ice versus when he was not on the ice. It's all advanced math stuff, so don't really worry about it. I'm sure the guy who calculates all of this stuff will have a seizure by the end of the day, but in Lemieux's case, his team basically has 3.49% more shot attempts when he was on the ice than when he was not, which just proves his positive driving play. Now take a look at his Corsi for percentage, which is calculated by the Corsi for, the shot attempts for at even strength. This includes shots, misses, and blocks, by the way, and then we divide it by the Corsi for again, but this time you're going to add the Corsi against, which is the same thing as Corsi for, but for the opposite team. Sorry for the confusion, I'll post the formula if you guys still have concerns about that, but Lemieux's Corsi for percentage relatively is positive 6.39%, which is the second highest on the team, and not to mention how this is just the second time or second season that Lemieux has been put on the plus side of the shot share difference, and I think we should all give credit to Todd McLellan for putting him in a great spot on the Kings forward group. He has played with Blake Lizotte, a guy who has seriously improved his play by being with Lemieux, as both of them are 50% and over for goals, expected goals, Corsi, and more, for more than 500 minutes of even strength time. That's just crazy what a bottom 6 line can do for you, and it's going to be great if they continue together because both of them are super young. Now, in the beginning, I did mention how Lemieux has been notorious for being a pest like his dad. There's no doubt about that. I personally like the guy as a player, but I'd say everyone would agree that he's in the top 10 for biggest pests and dirtiest players. There's no doubt. You cannot mention this guy without talking about his controversial past. There's a reason why he's been traded 3 times. He was drafted by Buffalo in the second round in 2014, and then they traded him as the part of that Evander Kane package back in 2015 to Winnipeg, and then, he got sent to New York in 2019, part of the Kevin Hayes trade, and then he got sent to LA in 2021. This guy gets fired up, which is always nice, but sometimes he gets a little too fired up and he crosses the line, and that's when he takes really bad penalties and almost at the worst times. Some of the things he does actually get some consequences from the league. Like recently, for example, against the Jets, Lemieux shoved Mark Scheifele to the ground, and that was a blatant call, and the refs gave him 2 minutes, I think, for roughing, but Either way, there was less than 2 minutes left in this entire game, and he takes this penalty when his team is in the offensive zone trying to score, and they're just down by 1 goal. And then you take this penalty. I mean, how could you possibly do that? Not only do you put yourself in a potential spot to get suspended because that hit was really, really bad, but you also put your team at a disadvantage when they literally do not want any sort of disadvantage at that time. It's just dumb. I mean, he easily costed them that game, and I mean, there's not much else you can say. It's just a really poor decision by him. You know, with the style of player that Lemieux is, sometimes you can live with a bad penalty or two. However, if you're playing with a guy like Brendan Lemieux, who takes a lot of penalties, you have to wonder if that is costing the team. Since the start of the 2020-21 season, no player has taken more minor penalties per 60 minutes than the Kings agitator, which is a minimum of 1,000 minutes played, by the way. He's also no stranger to receiving a 5-minute penalty either. He ranks 3rd in that major penalty rate in that time span. The Kings' penalty kill has ranked in the bottom half of the league for the last 2 seasons, so taking unnecessary penalties has the potential to hurt the team overall. This guy has been suspended multiple times in his NHL career. I think it's been 3 times in, 250 games he's played so far? If you guys remember that biting incident, which, oh my goodness, was almost a year ago. What the hell? How was that actually a year ago? That's crazy. Man, time flies. But either way, yeah. Tkachuk basically called him a bad guy and a bad teammate and said, how could you do such a gutless act? And he just kept rambling on and on. But I find that to be very ironic considering it's Brady Tkachuk and, he's also a bit of a pest, but he's nowhere near Lemieux's level. The other 2 times that Brendan Lemieux was suspended were in 2018 when he was with the Jets. He hit Vincent Trocheck into the head and got suspended. Then in the final game before everything shut down in 2020, we had him do almost the same act, this time on Jonas Donskoy of the Avalanche, and he would be suspended for the first 2 out of 3 qualifier games. Now, this is exactly why a team like the Kings, a team that desperately wants to get the cup back again, remember that the Kings have not won a series since the 2014 play. Oh, let's not go there, please. It gives me heartbreaking PTSD as a Rangers fan, but they haven't won a series since the 2013-14 season. And what's even worse is that they only made the playoffs 3 times since that year, and they lost in 5 in the first 2 times to San Jose and Vegas, and then they lost to Edmonton last year in 7 games. Point being that the Kings are not going to tolerate Lemieux's antics, which will certainly lead to penalties. They don't really mind having a grinder, as they really have not had one since, I don't know, maybe Curtis McDermott. That's the first guy that comes to my head when I think of, recent grinders. So certainly they could use a guy like Lemieux, provided that he doesn't cost them games with stupid penalties. Grit is always good, guys, alright? I think maybe I should make myself a little bit clear here, but grit is always good. That's how you win championships. But they don't want too much grit to a point where it costs them penalties. These type of players are seriously hard to root for unless they are on your team, but even there are times where you may say, holy crap, why is he so violent? If Lemieux purely wants violence instead of benefiting the team, then yeah, Tkachuk is damn well right about how his teammates probably don't like him, but we really have not heard that. We saw how Jonathan Quick immediately stuck up for him after he got suspended, so that's good to see. But if there is a chance that other people start disliking him, then it may be time for him to go. If Lemieux reduces the penalties he takes, however, then yes, he is worth keeping on this team. He was actually pretty solid in the playoffs last year. I saw him notch a few goals here and there, but overall, a really good performance by Lemieux. Unfortunately, most teams shy away from using guys like Lemieux on their team, which kind of hurts them. Like, take a look at the Penguins or the Maple Leafs, for example. These are teams that do not have so much grit or not enough grit on their team. But I can kind of disagree with that. I mean, Toronto literally has Jordy Ben and Wayne Simmons waiting to knock you out, so it's kind of hard to disagree with that one, but it's good to have them, okay? A lot of teams just try to load up their lineup with as much talent as possible, and that doesn't help very much because then any superstar is at risk of becoming prey. Lemieux also plays old school hockey. He is 11th in the NHL in hits per 60 minutes in the last 3 seasons. There are also people that still want a player like Lemieux in the lineup in case they are needed for a fight, even though we see less and less of those guys these times. If he can cut down the needless penalties, the Kings can trust him more. Right now, it's really hard to send him over the boards in the 3rd period in a close game because it may result in the team being shorthanded. Other than that, Lemieux is worth having in the lineup despite his flaws in the game. This past summer, he signed a 1-year contract with a salary cap hit of $1.35 million, and this year he will become an unrestricted free agent. So even though he's been playing really well, it's important for the Kings and any other team who may sign him to not overpay for bottom 6 players, because this is something that has occurred several times in the recent past. And what happens when you overpay for bottom 6 players? Well, it can lead to a salary cap hellfire. A small raise should be the offer from LA if they want to bring him back in the future. Nonetheless, it's still easy to see why fans can get frustrated by Lemieux, but he is actually performing in the role the Kings want him to play. For the time being, it's hard to see the team removing him from the lineup on a regular basis. So either way, let me know in the comments your thoughts on Lemieux or about the Kings in general. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in and have a wonderful day.